I sent my child to wilderness therapy and I'm not sorry about it. My daughter is a sociopath. Ever since she was a child, she never seemed normal. She was always drawn away from us and very hostile. My partner and I lock her in her room at night to protect ourselves and to make sure she doesn't get into anything dangerous to harm us. We have caught her trying to get into our gun safe, as well as multiple attempts of grabbing knives from the kitchen to try to kill our son. We have tried everything. We have given her love, attention, toys, heart-to-heart conversations, one-on-one hangout days, and therapy. We even admitted her to a mental hospital for a year because she kept threatening to kill us and her little brother. Nothing had worked. Her therapist tells us everything we already do. Every other day we plan family game night like Just Dance, bingo, etc. And it always ends with my daughter threatening to murder us in our sleep. She was soon after in a mental facility for 2 years after that, and when she came home, she was somehow worse. It got to the point where I was afraid for my family's safety, especially our son. So I looked into wilderness therapy. Before anyone says it's bad, I know it's bad. I know how they treat the children there. At this point, I just want my daughter gone. This family has taken enough of her abuse, and I have tried to make sure it didn't get to this point. I even asked family members if they could take her in, and they all declined because they are afraid of her and don't want to handle her. So I admitted her in, and she leaves Monday. She is 16 and will stay there until she is 18, where she can check herself out and leave. Before anyone calls me a bad parent, understand that it's hard to have a child be a part of your life when they grab a knife from the kitchen in the middle of the night and try to unlock your door to kill you, or when they try to drown your other child. I understand this will be hard for her. I always will love my daughter and will miss seeing her, but she needs to know that this happened because of her actions and negligence. So she does have a small little update. Tomorrow was the day I was supposed to drop her off at the wilderness therapy. A few days ago, I told my daughter where she was going, and she was understandably upset. She was very unstable the past couple of days. I told her that it wasn't fair to me that she treated us all very badly. She said it was clear we didn't want her here and that her friend's parents agreed to take her in. So I helped her pack her bags and dropped her off. Unfortunately, she didn't even last 2 days at their house because I got a call from her friend's dad telling me that they can't handle her sudden angry outbursts. So once they drop her off today, I'm continuing to take her to wilderness therapy. My husband and I have thought it was best to cut her off completely and move. Some people suggested changing our last names, and we will be doing that too. Here is a letter that I will send off with her now. Hello, daughter. One of our biggest regrets and mistakes was not being able to do more for you. It felt like there was so many puzzle pieces that were missing and couldn't be fixed. We as a family tried to be there for you, to look out for you. However, you failed to treat us with that same respect, and in return made us afraid for our safety. We sincerely hope this journey will teach you many things and help you discover whatever will help your life get on track. This journey with us, however, has come to an end. In 2 years' time, when you get out, we would have moved and changed our names. Please don't try to find us, and instead use your freedom to live out your life. We don't feel safe around you, and we feel like it is best to not be in contact anymore. Regardless, we still want to recognize the good moments we had. We hope you will live a fulfilling life without us. Sincerely, your family.
Am I the arsehole for calling my daughter's dad spineless and his girlfriend creepy after what they decided to call their daughter? Story time. So, a little bit of context. I ended up falling pregnant with my daughter on a drunken hookup. I know it's not very glamorous, but that's the truth of it all. When we found out that I was pregnant, we decided that we would keep the baby and we would co-parent as friends. We were never a couple, nor did we want to be. 4 years ago, Steve met a girl called Amy and they ended up moving in together this time last year. She fell pregnant very quick and I've been extremely supportive where I can be. I've had a big chat with my daughter about it. I've told her that she needs to help out wherever necessary and to behave while she's there so that she's not making their life any more stressful. I also mentioned that I'd love our children to have a really close relationship despite having different mothers. I'm actually really happy that my daughter is getting a sibling because I didn't want any more children, so this kind of works out for the best. So 3 days ago, Amy gave birth. And Steve texted me asking if I could bring our daughter to meet her. So of course I did exactly that. Then they introduced us to the baby. I was shocked. The name they used was my daughter's name. I'm done, I'm out. So Amy, the mum, didn't seem to have any sort of issue. She didn't think to let me know. We didn't have a conversation about it. But Steve, the dad, seemed very, very uncomfortable and he wouldn't even look me in the eye. So I was like, what are we playing at here? What's going on? At that point, Steve's dad was like, I'll take your daughter out. We'll go to the cafe. He was like, peace out, tap it out. He told me to not overreact about the situation and to calm down. While Amy, with the audacity, turned around and said, I don't really see what the problem is. It was just a pretty name that we liked. Original. And I was trying to work out if they'd named the child after my daughter. And Amy was like, nah, it was just a pretty name that we both really like. Well, no shit, you really liked. You've already got a daughter named that, weirdo. And I was really trying to wrap my brain around this. I was like, great, so what are we going to use as like her nickname? Like, is she going to go by her middle name? Like, what's going on? I very quickly just came to the realisation that this was the name and they didn't see anything wrong with it at all. This is the most mad Steve and Amy have ever moved. I'm calling it right now. And that was when I turned to Amy. I was like, you're a creep. Steve tried to interject and like break it up. And I was like, you can't get involved. You are a spineless man. He then tried to tell me that our daughter could go by a nickname instead. Amy then called me a bitch and then asked the nurses to remove me. I got kicked out of the hospital. So what do you think here? Am I the arsehole?
So about 1.5 years ago, I started using Tinder again. And one of the first people I matched with, we kind of flirted. It was kind of like on and off. We both thought we were attractive, but we never really did anything about it. But we started going to like lunches and dinners, and we just became really good friends. She met my friends, I met her friends. She came to some of the parties I had here. And it was just good vibes every time we hung out. Eventually, I got a girlfriend. She stayed with me through the whole relationship. Even though we met on Tinder, my girlfriend knew, it didn't matter. She got a boyfriend, didn't matter, we stayed good friends. And then eventually I broke up with my girlfriend and her boyfriend broke up with her, unfortunately. But maybe a few weeks after that happened, I had a hookup over and the hookup went to bed at like 7 p.m. What is that, first of all? So I hit up girl and I was like, hey, do you want to hang out? You can come over. The girl I was with is dead asleep. So she's like, yeah, for sure. So she comes over and we hang out upstairs and then eventually the hookup wakes up and she's like, hey, I'm going to go. I'm like, yeah, girl, you should have left 4 hours ago. What are you thinking? Anyway, me and girl are like, well, now that she's gone, let's go to the bar. And we had already been drinking at my place. And it was a Tuesday night. At the bar that we go to, it's $7 Long Island's. And at the time, we had never had a Long Island before. We knew that there was a lot of liquor in a Long Island. So we were like, for $7, we might as well. It'll get us drunk. We see them making this Long Island. And right when I saw them making it, I'm sitting there like, this is going to kill me. This drink might kill me. So we slam the Long Islands. We probably hang out at the bar for like an hour. We play some pool, have a good time. And when we get back to my house, it's kind of late. So we go into bed. And we also got a 6-pack of Tweez from the bar, which was not needed at all. So that got us even more drunk. And once we're laying and we're like settled, we start making out. It was just one of those things that I didn't even think of. It just kind of happened and then it escalated and I went down on her. But I knew that there was no shot it was going to be able to go further than that because with that much liquor in my body, I'm not getting anything up, all right? But so that happens and then we wake up in the morning and we don't really talk about it. And honestly, I don't really know if we've ever talked about it. We don't really hang out like that anymore. It's just been kind of like weird. There's been like a little flirty vibe now, but it just kind of changed everything. But I mean, I guess that's just Tinder, right?
Am I wrong for not being comfortable with my husband being friends with his female coworker? His coworker, female 24, will call her Debbie. Started working with my husband, male 35, we'll call him Charlie, 2 years ago. Last September, I met her for the first time at a wedding of 2 of their coworkers. She sat behind us. The girl getting married doesn't like my husband, but he's on the same shift and the whole shift was invited to the wedding. The girl getting married had called Charlie a snake to Debbie in a casual conversation. They're not friends and Charlie is generally a good person, in my opinion, so that's not a red flag to me. Debbie told Charlie about this, so at this point it's a running inside joke that I was privy to. Charlie texts Debbie, snake, and Debbie mouths, stop, all flirty. I did think it was flirty, but thought that it just may be her personality. Fast forward to the shift Christmas party last year. We've been hosting shift Christmas parties at our house for 2 years. The whole shift was there, but Debbie brings her twin sister as her +1. One thing about her job is that it's a male-dominated field, but I'm friends with a few of the coworkers' wives. So during the party, all the women were hanging out, except Debbie and her twin sister. She was hanging out with the guys. I assumed it was because she didn't really know most of the women. No big deal. But the next day, she sends Charlie a couple of photos that she snapped of him without his knowledge. The photos were accompanied by a text that said, "Why did I take these? LOL." He showed me this and his response, which was pretty PG, but I did remark something along the lines of, "LOL, I think she has a crush on you." He just brushed that off. Fast forward to February. His coworkers are all in their 20s and they convinced Charlie to get his Snapchat. I've never been a fan of Snapchat, and Charlie has never had any form of social media. After he gets Snapchat, I notice he's on his phone a lot more. I'm naturally a nosy person and realize that it's a flaw of mine. So I notice that he's beginning to talk about Debbie more, and I start questioning who he's chatting with. One thing I notice is that every single time he works overtime, she snaps him and asks him if he's working, or she'll ask if he worked the next day. I tell him that she's starting to make me uncomfortable. He brushes that off. March. We go to a new coworker's house on Wednesday night for dinner party. None of the wives that I'm friends with are there. I also have to work on Thursday and no one else does. Before we go to the party, we discuss leaving at a reasonable time. At 9:45 p.m., I ask him what time we're leaving. He hee-haws around and I immediately get frustrated and walk off. He gets mad and decides that he's staying as late as he wants. I keep asking when we're leaving and reminding him that I have work. I spend the rest of the night crying on the couch in a stranger's house. 4 people come and check on me. Charlie and Debbie never do, and I can see them sitting beside each other outside. We end up leaving the party around 1:30 in the morning. May. We go to a hot air balloon festival an hour from home. He tells her where we are and asks her to meet up. I'm really not privy to this conversation except that I asked him who he was talking to and it was her. We get in an argument and leave before she arrives, and then he tells me that that's what they were talking about. We go to London for vacation and we're arriving back in the States for our anniversary. I post a super cute slideshow. Debbie sees it. Debbie then snaps Charlie about someone breaking into her car. I express that I think it's weird. August. Charlie says that he stopped talking to Debbie because it made me upset. He's been distancing from me for a few months though, so I still have a gut feeling that something isn't right. He got a new phone in July, but saved his old phone. I let my intrusive thoughts win and I look at his old phone. Charlie and Debbie talked on the phone for 45 minutes while I was at work and they were both off work. I log into Charlie's TikTok account. He sent her a video from Barstool Sports of a girl telling the guy, "I have a crush on you," and the guy reacting really good to it. 2 days before he sent that video, Debbie reposts one saying, "When you're trying to go to sleep, all you can think about is wanting him in your bed." 2 days after he sent her the crush video, she reposts a video that says, "The most confusing place you can be is knowing you have a connection with someone but you're not officially together, but you're more than friends." I confront him and I tell him that this is an inappropriate relationship. After I confront him, she deletes her videos. He claims that he didn't talk to her about it and still maintains that they stopped talking. Now last week, I decided to check his Snapchat and his old phone because I'm still having a gut feeling. They've been #1 BFFs on Snapchat for at least 2 weeks. They talk every single day. She sends him a pic of herself in her pajamas. Now I'm in my PJs, LOL, while I'm looking. It wasn't risque, but I have never once sent any of my male friends a selfie of myself, much less in my pajamas. I tell him that I'm not comfortable with their friendship and I would like him to stop being friends with her. Side note, we're in couples therapy as well. During the fight, he tells me that he likes having friends. I have no problem with any of his other friends. I asked him why he lied and said he stopped talking to her. He said because he knew I didn't like it. I feel like I can no longer trust him, and he basically told me that he would rather be friends with her than married to me. I have asked all my friends if I'm overreacting, and all of them have told me to leave him. We've been married for 13 years and together for a total of 15 years.
Anywho, absolutely love talking about our little love story because it's so funny to me. Way before me and Jackson started dating, I had the biggest crush on him ever, and if you know me personally, you know that's true. I've known Jackson and his whole family ever since I was like 13. My little sister was in 3rd grade. She started playing for Jackson's dad. It's her coach in basketball and softball, so I have known them for a very long time. She's a senior now, so it's been years. I was in middle school, both 7th and 8th grade. Jackson's dad was also my coach. Just a huge long line of us like being friends through that, our families being friends through sports, and his dad being both of our coaches. I'm freaking excited to try this out. I don't even know if I've said this part yet, but my sister and his sister have also been friends ever since then because obviously they were on the same exact team. But this is the part where we met. Crush on him literally since the first time I saw him. I always thought he was so freaking cute. Like even when I was that little, I literally thought he was so cute. But obviously like nothing happened. We were so young. Like it's back to 8th grade basketball. He would come in the gym, he would like just shoot around, and again, like I literally just thought he was the cutest person in the whole entire world. Actually, like almost all of us basketball players literally thought he was so cute. And I remember it was like me and this one specific girl, we would literally like both be like texting him, playing like pool games with him, trying to Snapchat him. Like it was so funny. And we would Snapchat a little bit, but like it was nothing serious. I don't even think we had conversations. I think it was just pictures back and forth, maybe like a hey, what are you doing, like whatever, but it just wasn't anything like big or anything. Like always, I forgot to put on my Tower 28 facial spray that I'm obsessed with, so we must do that now. Fast forward 2 years after 8th grade year, so it's my sophomore year in high school. Actually in the same lunch that I was in, he sat with his friends, I sat with my friends, and I literally would have my friends, I was like, what is he doing right now? Like, is he talking to any girls? Like, girl, you guys weren't even talking yet. Like, what was I doing? But it's just so funny to think about because I was like, I need this man in my life. Like, and it wasn't until homecoming of my sophomore year again, so that's like the end of like what, October, I want to say October, somewhere around October. Actually, I think that's the end of September. You know how homecoming is, especially when you're single. You're just dancing around, like it's just a fun night if you're with your friends, and you know what it is, you know the vibe. That's exactly what I was doing, that's exactly what Jackson was doing. And again, we weren't even like Snapchatting, we weren't even like talking, but I did see him like by himself with his friends, like not dancing with anyone. I was like, hold on, I'm like, what? Now's my freaking time, because I wasn't dancing with anyone then either. So I was like, whatever. So I looked at him, he looked at me, and I literally like grabbed him by his arm, and then we started dancing. There's actually a video of that somewhere in my camera roll because my friend took it, because again, they all knew that I had the hugest crush on him ever. My coffee cup and my sweatshirt matches. Literally that night I got a Snapchat from him, and I was like sure of something random. Like I remember it wasn't like a conversation, and then it turned into a conversation because I made a little move and I said, you're a good dancer, or something like that. And his exact words were, you're not a bad dancer yourself, or something like that. And nothing was really happening. We made like a little move, like we let each other know, like, you know. Like we didn't like plan to hang out, like it was nothing serious, right? It wasn't until the end of November now, so yes, it was the end of September when homecoming was a thing, now that I'm thinking about it. But one of my friends and one of his friends were dating. Both of our groups had went to the mall that night, so I was there and he was there, but like we were literally on separate ends of the tables. But I was like, oh my god, like Jackson Clem is here right now. I really Snapchatted my friend's boyfriend at the time, and I was like, ask Jackson if he thinks I'm pretty. While you do that, we're gonna go into PacSun and we're just gonna see what he says. And that's exactly what we did. And then Jackson said yeah, leave the mall or whatever, and someone that was supposed to ride with, obviously we were in 2 different cars, so someone that was supposed to ride with him actually took my spot in the other car, and there wasn't any other seats, so I had no other choice, and they all planned this, so I had no other choice but to get in Jackson's car. Like a 15-20 minute drive, and we literally didn't shut up. We just talked and talked and talked. Like I remember it so vividly, and we talked about it too, where like we just didn't stop talking. And then all of us were meeting like at the same exact house afterwards, but before that Jackson needed to go to his house to get his insulin because he had forgotten it. We drive to his house, and at this point it's just me and him because we dropped the couple that was with us in the back seat, we dropped them off at their car. So at this point it's only me and him, and we're going to his house. We go in, I actually went in with him, and I vividly remember seeing Taylor like sitting at like the kitchen table, and she was like coloring, or I think she was coloring. I was like, hi, and she was so cute. She was like 7 at the time, so she was like, she's still so cute, but like she was so little, and I couldn't. And his mom was even like, hi Anna, kind of like, what is happening here? Like it was just such a last minute like thing, like why are we together? Like it was just so funny. Also, side note, my eyelids, I don't even know if you can tell, you can kind of tell, I need to fix my eyebrow, but my eyelids are so dry right now because of the Paula's Choice exfoliant. It dried the crap out of my skin. I just returned it. I hated it so much on my skin. Just a FYI if you're wanting to get it. Everyone's skin is different though, so it might be better on yours than it is mine, but I hated it. Anyways, after he gets his insulin and everything, we meet everyone at the house that everyone's hanging out at. Just chilling, watching a movie, and I remember it was like a plan between me and one of my friends where we had his friend tell Jackson to put his arm around me. And that is indeed what happened. He put his arm around me, and I was so freaking happy. If you know both of us personally, you know that I'm the type to make the move, and he's the type to kind of like just wait, kind of nervous to talk, whatever, and I'm the type that's like, let's go. So anyways, after the night ended, he was the one who actually took me home, which we were like literally 2 minutes from the place that we were. So we get to my house, and then he pulls me in for a hug, and I was like, oh my god, like it's official, like we're talking now, we're like low-key a thing now. It was that night actually where he Snapchatted me and asked me to go on our first date. It was the movies, which is why I feel like it's so special to us, because we love going to the movies. We had our first kiss there, we had our first date there, and it's just like one of our favorite spots ever to go, so that's so special. Pause for the lippies. Talked for about 2.5 weeks, I want to say, maybe even a little later, but I think it was just like 2.5 weeks the latest. Made it official on December 14th 2019. 1 month from today it'll be our 4 years, and I actually cannot believe it. It feels like I've known him forever, but it also feels like it's went by so fast. Really my best friend, and I'm so glad that I found my soulmate so soon in this life. This is your sign to just wait for it to happen, because it was so unexpected, and I'm so glad it happened when it happened. Literally God's timing.
A really close friend of mine dated this cop, and we all thought he was the exception to the rule about cops being dangerous. Now, she ended up dating this guy for several years, and we all loved him. Like, he became kind of like the group boyfriend. Like, if you needed help with something, you like call him. Like, he would show up, he was reliable, he would use the weight of like being a cop to help all of us. He lived in this amazing house. It was meticulously decorated. The garden was beautiful. We had so many parties there, so much time in the garden. Like we all really liked him. And for the longest time, he wanted her to move in with him. She was constantly like wanting her to move in. And she had her own place and everything. And she wasn't really like trying to live with anybody. She had kids and everything. But then she was like, you know what? Maybe when my kids are grown, like we're together, like we can do it. So then the day came. And I mean, they dated for a really long time. She moves in. Within 2 months of her moving in, she finds out he had been cheating on her. So she, like, something happened with his phone. Like, she saw a weird message or something, and it, like, his phone was there, and she looked at it, and then she proceeds to look through his phone and finds that he had been having an affair with this woman. She confronts him, and it did not go well. She ends up locking herself in the bathroom. Now, he's out there raging, you know, about like whatever's going on. And she's calling her sister. Now, before her sister arrives, she gets a knock on the door. And it was the police. He actually called the police on her. Now, at this point, he's a retired cop. And doesn't matter. He still has like the blue shield of protection. So he told the police officers that he had been hooking up with this woman. He met her at a bar the night before. She spent the night and she was refusing to leave. She was living there. So now they're telling her she has to go out, get out of the house because he's presented her as like some random chick he's picked up on the street who has no like reason to be there. So she has to prove that she lives there, and she's only been there a couple of months, so she hadn't transferred her driver's license and all that yet. Luckily, I think she had a piece of mail or something, and so they were like, he had to leave the house for a certain amount of time, and she was just like, but listen, he has guns in this house, and I no longer feel safe. And she's trying to explain to like the police. Finally, her sister and brother-in-law arrive, and she's like, you know, I'm gonna get my stuff and leave with them, but he has guns in the house, and I don't feel safe. Very long story short, the cops that arrived never filed a report at the police station. She ended up having to file a grievance against him, the cops, in order to try and get restraining orders. And I might have to do a part 2 because we find out later that the house that he was living in, all of that thing, he had managed to steal from the woman he was with previously. And actually, none of the things that were there were actually belonged to him.
Am I the asshole for refusing to let my husband's affair baby live with us for a while? I married my husband very young. 3 years into our marriage, we got a divorce because he had an affair and got his mistress pregnant. We were split for 5 years, then decided we had changed as people and reconciled for our daughter we had before the divorce and for ourselves with the help of counseling. We've now been together for 6 years. During the years apart, I had another child with a serious partner who sadly passed away. A few days ago, we got a call from my husband's ex-mistress. She says her job wanted her to fly out of state this weekend for an opportunity, but it is impossible with her son, and asked us if we would be willing to take him in so short notice. Usually, my husband gets a hotel and stays with his son when she flies out, but she said this time would be a longer-term stay. I told my husband absolutely not. That wasn't happening. He said I was being unfair and that he cares for my daughter, who's from my late partner like his own, and I should do the same. I screamed at him and said, quote, my daughter isn't the product of my affair. Absolutely no way is he staying here. He got angry and said that I was being ridiculous and a bitch because the child is innocent. In my eyes, it hurts me too much to look at that boy. Am I the asshole?
Am I the astronaut for telling my daughter if she hates her stepmom so much, she is free to leave? My daughter is 20 and in college. She has a dorm on campus, but she doesn't live there. I love my daughter, but she can be a lot. Drama follows her everywhere, and I was hoping she would grow out of it, but it never happened. Due to this, she has gone through multiple friend groups, and as she puts it, they are jealous, so she doesn't have college friends. Now, I married her stepmom when my daughter turned 18. I was never married and her bio mom wasn't in the picture, so this was an adjustment, but I want to make it clear that I did the right steps. I introduced them when I was serious, 2 years in. I spent more time with her. I didn't force them together. We made boundaries for my wife, like punishment comes to me, not her. When she was struggling, I got her into therapy and did sessions with her. She stopped when she hit 18 since I couldn't make her go. My daughter is making it impossible for them to get along. If my wife tells her food is ready, already, she gets pissed that she is bothering her. If she doesn't tell her, then she's pissed that she wasn't invited. It's contradiction after contradiction. I have talked to her. My wife has tried to do what she asked, and then she is pissed that she did that. It's impossible. Now to the main issue. My wife's birthday was yesterday. I put out her presents and cake on the table. Oh no. Don't you tell me. Don't you tell me. Ugh. I had work to do, so I left it all there. I came back and all of her presents were opened, and my daughter was eating a piece of cake. I asked why the she would do that. She told me she didn't deserve birthday presents. This is when I had enough, and I told her if she hated her stepmom so much she could leave. That she has a dorm, and I don't want to see her until an apology to me and my wife happens. She started crying and called me a jerk. I've been getting a lot of texts from her, and I'm doubting my decision. Am I the astronaut?
My sister laughed at me for giving my baby an anime name, so I blasted her on TikTok and ruined her life. I loved anime so much. I had all the latest anime merch and went to all the conventions. My husband loved anime too. After being married 2 years, we decided to have a baby. My sister always thought I was stupid for liking anime, and said the name that I picked for my baby was laughable. You can only imagine how she felt when the baby was born. She didn't even try to be polite. As soon as she came to the hospital to visit the baby, she was going on about what a terrible name it was. We had a huge altercation in the hospital. While my baby was crying and was literally just born, she was telling all the nurses that I had to change the name of my baby. She continued being super entitled until she eventually got kicked out. Me and my husband thought it was cool to name the baby after our favorite anime character, Deku, but nobody else seemed to agree. She posted a picture of the baby on social media writing how proud she was to be a new aunt, but she said she couldn't believe her sister gave her child such a stupid name like Deku. I told my sister several times to back off. I told her that it was affecting our relationship, which was true. I was getting not to like my sister anymore. I also told her that it would make our kid feel bad about his name. She just said, if you want your kid not to feel bad about his name, you shouldn't have named him that, and she laughed at me. After a while I stopped talking to my sister except when I absolutely had to. I saw her at family gatherings, and every time I did she never missed the chance to take a picture of my sweet baby Deku and post it on social media and write something about how stupid the name was. At this point Deku was 2 years old. I knew that he would start finding out about my mean sister soon enough. I had to stop her before she did any damage. So I invited her over. I told her we needed to chat about what was going on so we could put an end to it. My sister came over and was her usual mean self. She started pointing and laughing at me and my child. I tried to tell her she was hurting my child, but she didn't care. She just kept laughing about how it was a dumb name, how anime was dumb, blah blah blah. I tried to explain to her that it was a big part of Japanese culture, but she said it was stupid. After my sister left, I realized I had filmed the entire conversation on my nanny cam. I realized that if I spliced it the right way I would make it look like my sister was saying nasty things about the Japanese culture. Then I posted the footage on TikTok. My sister lost her job when her boss gets sent the video. Everyone who knows my sister looks at her completely different and don't talk to her. Am I the jerk? My brother-in-law called me the one who got away in his speech, so my husband gave him a brutal reality check. My husband's brother, 23, was always annoying to me. When my husband and I dated, he used to hit on me all the time. He would just do it blatantly, like he didn't even try to hide it from my husband. I guess it's because he was doing it all in fun and games, but a lot of the time he went too far and he would be downright disgusting. Plus there was really not much redeeming about my brother-in-law. He wasn't especially good looking and didn't have a great job. My husband always said he wanted to beat his brother up for the things he said about me, but I would tell him not to. My husband and I decided to get married. The day of our wedding everything was running smoothly. Then came the time for everyone to get up and make a speech. My brother-in-law got up to speak. I was cringing, wondering what he was going to say. I thought he was going to tell a bunch of dirty jokes, but he completely surprised me. He started telling everyone that I was the one who got away. He said he really loved me and he was supposed to be the one who would marry me today, but he understood why I chose his brother. He started making a real pity case about how he wasn't as handsome and smart and how their parents always favored my husband. Then he ended up saying, "Take good care of her," like my husband needed to hear that from a loser like his brother. I could tell my husband was getting really angry at his brother. I put a hand on his arm to try to get him to restrain himself. I didn't want him making a scene at his wedding, but I guess his brother pushed him past that breaking point. My wife was never the one who got away for you. She never loved you. She never cared about you. She was never the one. You would never stand a chance with her because you're always saying disgusting things about her. Plus you're a complete loser who has never done anything with his life. Everyone at the wedding party was just looking around uncomfortably. Nobody ever knew this side of my brother-in-law, so everyone was taken by complete shock. You ugly, smelly, disgusting sack of lazy uselessness who will never get a woman who is even nearly as attractive as my beloved wife. Before my husband could finish, my brother-in-law left. The next day my husband went on social media to explain the relationship between me and him and his brother. Everyone agreed that the brother needed help. He was pretty much cancelled from our family and friend group. Are we the jerks?